weighty matter, regardless of which direction we are going to take as senators. I don't see a solution ahead as a governor who has served for 10 years, whether the governor is impeached or the impeachment, of the governor is not approved by this House. I see sadness moving forward, regardless of whichever way we're going to vote. And that has been consciously the most disturbing position for me as a leader who has served as a governor for 10 years. Because I've said, if we go this way, what will be the result? If we go this way, what will be the result? And I don't see light at the end of the tunnel.
Senator Ledama.
Mr. Speaker, I speak here today as a father of 2 lovely daughters whom I'd like to see grow, become leaders like the way God has blessed me. What I witnessed today, Mr. Speaker, is something which negates that dreams if we do not stand and to be counted. What I've witnessed today, Mr. Speaker, is this Senate being reduced into being an internal audit. Mr. Speaker, the lawyers presented something which negates the Public Audit Act Section 31, which is quite clear on the process of audit. Mr. Speaker, sir, Article 228, Section 5 is very clear. It says the controller of budget shall not authorize any withdrawal of funds from the county revenue fund unless she's satisfied that that withdrawal is authorized by law. Mr. Speaker, sir, we've been entertained by a charade of just nuendos. There was nothing that you can be able to prove. I am a member, I'm a ranking member of the Senate Public Accounts Committee, and I know the process. I know what IFMIS is. I know the PFM Act, Section 103 establishes a county treasury, and he puts in the treasurer or the CMC as the head of that fund. Mr. Speaker, sir, I sat down here, and to be honest with you, when I watched those videos, something came to my mind. And I said, you know what? That conference of 1885 in Berlin conference was ill-advised. The British should have just left us with uncouth and civilized behaviors. To see a honorable member, someone who calls himself a honorable member, walking across the streets of our civilized nation, what we call civilized, and saying that certain weapons or certain tools should be used to be able to punish a woman. It's uncouth and uncivilized, and shame on them. Mr. Speaker, sir, I have gone through the 7 allegations, and none of them, Mr. Speaker, sir, has been substantiated. We are being introduced, we are being invited, Mr. Speaker, sir, to get into a conflict of manhood and womanhood. Mr. Speaker, sir, I second the sentiments of the majority leader when he said that it's about time that if these leaders of Meru cannot get their act together, we might as well call a commission of inquiry to suspend that county. It is ridiculous, Mr. Speaker, sir, and we cannot allow this Senate to be reduced to that. Mr. Speaker, sir, we should know better.
Senator Nyamu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have listened very carefully to the submissions from both sides since the beginning of this matter. Mr. Speaker, the million-dollar questions for this House and my colleagues is, does this matter before us meet the threshold for impeachment? And I want to quote the guidelines given by the Supreme Court of the threshold of conduct of the counsel for the county assembly alluded as gross misconduct. Mr. Speaker, is the conduct of the county governor of Meru, is it grave? Is it disgusting? Is it heinous? And is it audacious? And all that appertains gross misconduct? The answer is no. Mr. Speaker, we must not, as a House, drown in the murky waters that is Meru politics. We must be very careful that we do not drown as a House in those murky waters. Mr. Speaker, the MCAs of Meru have failed to demonstrate that they can be independent and they can make decisions that are not influenced from outside. And we must not join them. Mr. Speaker, I want to say tonight that the matter before us should not have got here. I do not see how this matter got here, because this is pure politics that should be handled at the ground in Meru. I am very saddened, I am very disappointed, and I am not going to be part, let it be known by those I am disappointing tonight, that I cannot be, as Senator Karen Nyamu, I am not going to be part of ending a young career of the woman governor of Meru simply because she did not take a tea invitation from so-and-so. She does not get along with whoever. We're experiencing that in Nairobi.
Your time is up. Your time is up. Senator Kajwang. Order. Order, senators. Order. Order, senators. Can Senator Kajwang be heard in silence? Senator Kajwang.
Mr. Speaker, I first want to congratulate the County Assembly of Meru. They have done their constitutional mandate. And if this parliament did half of what the County Assembly of Meru has done over the last 1 year, Mr. Speaker, the cost of living would be much lower, and some people will not be living in the houses they are living up on hills. I want to congratulate the County Assembly of Meru that whatever the outcome of today, they should not go home feeling that they did the wrong thing. They undertook their constitutional mandate. Mr. Speaker, today we are damned if we do, we are damned if we don't. Let me make it clear. The misogyny that has been demonstrated in some of the videos, the chauvinism, the incitement to tribal hatred has no place in a modern Kenya. And Mr. Speaker, those are things that we should not be massaging. Those are criminal actions. Gender-based violence is such a grave criminal action that if I had an option to ask the governor a question, I would have asked whether she reported those matters to the police, because impunity breeds in silence. Mr. Speaker, from the submissions, it appears as if everybody in Meru is mad. We are in a season of madness in Meru. And that, Mr. Speaker, the only sane person in Meru today is the governor and the spouse. That is what has come out of the submission. But, Mr. Speaker, could that be true? That all the great men and women of Meru, including the Deputy Speaker of this House, are mad, are in a season of madness, and the only lucid person can be the governor? Mr. Speaker, that presupposes and that indicates there's a big problem that an impeachment cannot solve. Mr. Speaker, we have a patient with 2 damaged kidneys. We take out 1 kidney, the patient will not survive. You take out the governor, you leave the assembly, you still have a problem. You reinstate the kidney, which is the governor, you still have a problem. Mr. Speaker, Article 192 says that where a county government has irretrievably broken down, that county should be suspended, that county should be sent to a fresh election. And Mr. Speaker, even though we do not have the original jurisdiction on that, I want to encourage the citizens of Meru to call for a suspension of the county government, to send Governor Kawira back to the people and to send the MCAs back to the people. We have been told a lot of stories about who is popular and who is not popular. But finally, Mr. Speaker, let us not forget that in 2010, this nation discharged Nancy Baraza of a role as a Deputy Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Kenya on very spurious allegations. But that has set a precedent that has been part of a jurisprudence. If we were to go with that threshold, then Governor Kawira Mwangaza should go home.
Senator Wakoli.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika. Nashukuru sana kwa nafasi hii ambayo nimepewa kujadili hoja nzito za usawa, haki na ukweli. Mheshimiwa, ukipewa nafasi kutafuta amani kati ya wendawazimu wawili, unashindwa utaanza vipi? Ama iwapo wewe ni mhubiri na unamuombea mwendawazimu, Mheshimiwa Spika, utafumba macho ukiomba ama utayakodoa macho pima ukiomba? Hiyo ndio hali tumo sasa. Tunakashifu matamshi mabaya dhidi ya wanawake, lakini pia lazima tukashifu matendo mabaya yanayotendwa na wanawake. Iwapo kuna ubadhirifu wa pesa, lazima tuseme. Iwapo kuna matusi dhidi ya wanawake na jinsia zao, lazima tukashifu. Iwapo viongozi hawawezi kaa pamoja na kujadiliana, lazima tuseme ukweli. Kwa sababu sisi katika jamii yetu tunasema maji yasipotifuliwa hayawezi tulia. Haya maji ya Meru yametifuliwa, Mheshimiwa Spika, lazima tuache yatokote na yatulie. Yamefika hapa, Mheshimiwa Spika, yanatokota, lazima tuamue yatulie, watu wa Meru wasonge mbele. Haiwezekani viongozi hawa kusema yale wanayosema pasipo shinikizo ama kunyoshewa vidole na viongozi wengine. Iwapo wewe unasema ni bishop na unasema wenye wivu wajinyonge, ni mahubiri yapi tunaendeleza katika nchi ya Kenya? Lazima tuseme ukweli. Tumejadili mambo ya uhubiri, wahubiri wawe wa ukweli, viongozi wawe wa ukweli, na bado nitasema fisi aliambia mawe, hata tukinyamaza vipi mumesikia, na lazima tupige kura turekebishe mambo ya Meru. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Senator Mogeni.
Mr. Speaker, if there is an image that had stuck with me ever since this impeachment trial started, it is the image I saw of some acts against the governor of Meru. Mr. Speaker, I can be rough in politics. Mr. Speaker, I can make mistakes in politics, but I will never, and I've never descended to the level I saw in the videos that were displayed before this House, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, however much you hate a human being, Mr. Speaker, if you are a Christian or you believe in the Almighty God, Mr. Speaker, there are some utterances you cannot make against some other human beings when you are a leader, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, despite the things, the wrongdoings we have seen against the governor of Meru, Mr. Speaker, we must ask ourselves, Mr. Speaker, when history is written, Mr. Speaker, and we are the 47 of us who sat here, Mr. Speaker, how did our conscience respond to the videos that were played before us, Mr. Speaker? How will the people of Kenya, Mr. Speaker, judge us? Because it is not just the governor who is on trial, Mr. Speaker. It is the Senate of the Republic of Kenya that is on trial tonight, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I want to state at 11:45, Mr. Speaker, without fear of any contradiction, that the vote I have tonight, Mr. Speaker, the one delegation from Nyamira, Mr. Speaker, I owe my vote, Mr. Speaker, to the great women of this country called Kenya, Mr. Speaker. I owe my vote, Mr. Speaker, to the women who have faith in me from the county of Nyamira, Mr. Speaker. I owe my vote, Mr. Speaker, to the great woman who raised me, Mama Nyamokami. And Mr. Speaker, I want to give confidence tonight
to the woman who will receive me when I go home, my wife Jacqueline, that I have respect for the women of this republic, Mr. Speaker. And when I cast my vote, Mr. Speaker, is to give assurance to my two lovely daughters, Nyamokami and Aliero, that we must treat the women of Kenya with honor and respect, Mr. Speaker. That is the vote that I carry, Mr. Speaker, tonight. I rest my case, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Tobiko.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thank you. And Mr. Speaker, throughout this impeachment petition, Mr. Speaker, I took my time to listen to both sides without trying to give my advice to my sister, as was expected by many Kenyans and by many people in Meru. Mr. Speaker, the council for the county assembly, Thiangolu, has said that quite a number of charges were like repetitions of the same charges that were in the first impeachment, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, then I don't know whether this was just an appeal of what this House had already made a decision on, Mr. Speaker. They could be allowed by law, Mr. Speaker, but I don't think they should have then wasted the time of this House, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, because of time, my submission this evening, Mr. Speaker, is that there could be administrative omissions and commissions. But Mr. Speaker, do they meet the threshold of impeachment, Mr. Speaker? As far as I'm concerned, these are non-impeachable offenses, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what we have seen throughout these 2 days is hounding of a woman out of office through emotional abuse, through intimidation, through slander, Mr. Speaker, through threats on her life, Mr. Speaker. We have also seen tribal and ethnic profiling, Mr. Speaker, issues that I think NCIC should pick up, Mr. Speaker. And I would want, Mr. Speaker, to advise the governor of Meru that whatever happens to you this evening, there are cases here that you should take to court, Mr. Speaker. This is very scary to aspiring women of this country. Mr. Speaker, I kept asking myself, is this what is awaiting the women governors in this country, Mr. Speaker? Those who will try to get into the political positions that are the domain of men in this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would say that what the county has continued to pursue is what Thiangolu had mentioned the other time, that the election brought undesired consequences, Mr. Speaker. They must live with their choice, Mr. Speaker. As far as I'm concerned, the Meru people elected Governor Kawira Mwangaza, and the will of the people is supreme, and they must live with their choice for the next 5 years. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Sifuna.
Mr. Speaker, on my first day in this House, I took an oath to protect this Constitution. And I'm sure the people of Meru will appreciate, because they also know about oaths, why I would insist on defending this document on every occasion. Mr. Speaker, under Article 94 of this Constitution, I'm enjoined to be a protector of counties and the interests of their governments. And that is exactly what I'm going to do, whether I know anything about any of your counties, whether I have ever been there, whether I know anyone from there or not, because that is the oath that I took, Mr. Speaker. It has set a very high threshold for the removal of a governor under Article 181 on gross violation of the Constitution and the law, gross misconduct and abuse of office, or where there are serious reasons to believe that the county governor has committed a crime under national or international law. Mr. Speaker, my expectation from the county was to meet a case that demonstrates this particular standard that has been set by the Constitution. Now, there is one telling thing that came from the submissions of counsel, my good friend Thiangolu, that in fact the motivation of the MCAs does not matter. I want to try and persuade this House that motivation is everything. The reason why human beings do things is absolutely critical to the doing of those things. Mr. Speaker, because what motivation does, it sets a goal for you, and then you look for a means to get to that particular goal. We have seen the evidence that has been laid here demonstrate clearly that a decision was made that Kawira Mwangaza had to go as a governor of Meru. And then steps and plans were put in place to be able to meet that particular goal. And that is something that I cannot abide as a senator sworn to protect the interests of counties. Mr. Speaker, I want to speak to two analogies that have, been used quite extensively by the team from the County Assembly. One, Mr. Speaker, is the analogy of the scorpion and the frog. I do not think anyone can ascribe the innocence of the frog in that particular analogy to the County Assembly of Meru. At the very minimum, it is a scorpion being carried by a crocodile on its back, because both animals are extremely dangerous from the evidence that we have seen here. Mr. Speaker, secondly, it is this much repeated song by Shaggy called It Wasn't Me. In fact, in that particular song, Council forgot that there was a collabo. There's another gentleman who's singing in that song as well. That gentleman says, I was caught live. There are photos. There is evidence. That is what we expected from the County Assembly. In the evidence of the photos of this gentleman on the counter, in the shower, as the council sang, Mr. Speaker, it is difficult for me to get behind the case by the County Assembly. I rest my case.
Senator Keroche.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving this opportunity. And for me, I agree, there is something wrong in Meru. There's something wrong in Meru County, the Moi County. But there is a saying that says, two elephants, when they fight, the grass is the one that suffers. In this case, the grass is the Meru people. So we must ensure that we make the right decision in a very sober manner. Both parties, I can say both parties, their representation was not convincing. Both parties. And whatever they brought in here, it is something I believe, as Senator Kavindo has said, could have been solved at the Senate. The two videos at main Meru, the videos that we've seen, they've portrayed the Meru men be very sex abusers. But for me, I can bear witness that in Nakuru, we have over 5,000 Meru men, and they respect women. So in that video, please, I ask Kenyans just to know that it's only those Meru men that were in those videos that were, it's not on the Meru men. I want to take this opportunity. I really want to take this opportunity and advise my sister, Her Excellency Governor Kawira, in the world we are living in, women to rise to the top, it takes a while, or it takes you work 5 times to reach to the top. But when you reach there, ensure you become a role model, that where women want to become like you. Men want their girls to be like you, but not their wives, because they only admire the power in you, but they don't like the power. So exercise the power that you've been bestowed by the Meru people very responsibly, so that the men can support you and walk with you. I've walked that journey, so I know. So going forward, ensure you go and unite the people of Meru. Unite all the leaders of Meru. Because believe me, in case of any...
Senator Ojenda. Senator Ojenda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for according me the opportunity to make a contribution to the debate before the House on the impeachment of Senator Mwangaza under Articles 181 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is clear that the 7 charges leveled against the Governor of Meru have a set threshold that must be established in now settled decisions of the Supreme Court on the impeachment of Governor Sonko and set by the Court of Appeal on the impeachment of Governor Wambora. Mr. Speaker, sir, I participated in both cases. I've also had the advantage, Mr. Speaker, sir, of participating in the impeachment of the Governor of Wajir, Mr. Mohamud, who is successfully returned to office after impeachment. The threshold question, Mr. Speaker, sir, is therefore important, and I just want to address myself to that question. Mr. Speaker, sir, the charges included misappropriation and misuse of county resources, nepotism and related unethical practices, bullying, vilification and demeaning of other leaders as set out under Article 75, 2 and 3, illegal appointments and usurpation of statutory powers, contempt of court, illegally naming a public road after a husband, and lastly, contempt of the county assembly. It is imperative that the threshold set, or that should be set and as properly defined in the Sonko case, should be above, somewhere above the doubt and somewhere below, below the threshold required for criminal trials. But Mr. Speaker, sir, turn to the effect of impeachments, and this is what should guide this assembly in voting. The effect of an impeachment is to permanently bar an individual from holding any public office. So whatever you do today, you'd be barring Governor Mwangaza from holding any public office in the Republic. Is this a fair act that this Senate should sit back and undertake when voting? I think that is the $6 million question. Mr. Speaker, sir, the gender question, and I think this is something, and I don't want to talk about scorpions and crocodiles and frogs, but in my understanding of what is before this Senate, the levels that have been defined.
Is up, Senator Charanke.
Mr. Speaker, sir, one, I want to congratulate members of County Assembly. I predicted in December that we'll go back where we are today during the first impeachment. I want to thank the MCS, Mr. Speaker. It is a constitutional right. Impeachment is a political process. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy gender is not on trial. It is about the competency, the ability, and discharge of the work of the governor. Mr. Speaker, when you look at the loss of 78 million, Mr. Speaker, the County Assembly has gone beyond and proved that the governor could not account for 78 million. Mr. Speaker, that charge has been proved. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, on the appointment, I was shocked, Mr. Speaker, under Article 183, Article 65, Article Section 30 and Section 45 of the County Governments Act, Mr. Speaker. You have been a governor. It is very clear that the governor abdicated. And in fact, on the record, the governor said she had delegated her role to County Secretary, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, number 3, it goes to the point. Where is the 1.5 Meru people, Mr. Speaker? It cannot be that you don't agree with the MCS, you don't agree with the church, you don't agree with Njurinjeke, you don't agree with elected leaders, 10 or 11 of them, Mr. Speaker. It is not that all others are wrong, Mr. Speaker, until you disfranchise, humiliate, vilify, bully elected leaders in front of the president. Mr. Speaker, the deputy president and the president on several occasions have tried to reconcile. What is it hard for governor to work with the rest? Because whenever a problem comes, they only come up with a gender guard. And I tell you, there is a saying that is popular that what a man can do, a woman can do more. What has happened? There were insults from the men. But did you see, Mr. Speaker, on record and WhatsApp, the governor herself say to the deputy governor, you will defecate avocado seeds, Mr. Speaker. So which insult is better than the other, Mr. Speaker? We cannot hide, Mr. Speaker. We must lift the veil. For Meru to move forward, we must stand with the MCAs and give them the confidence to ensure oversight, Mr. Speaker. I can assure you, Mr. Speaker, if today Governor Kawira Mwangaza, Mr. Speaker, is shown the door, Meru will heal and will go for the better going into the future. Mr. Speaker, I submit.
Senator Osotsi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, because of the short time, I want to start by saying that from the onset, this Senate agreed that we are going to listen to this case, the merits and demerits of the case, and make a decision. Mr. Speaker, I've spent hours here, sitting here, listening to the presentation from the two parties. And I want to say that I was shocked, Mr. Speaker, as an IT expert in my other life, that the county assembly presented to this house an extract from IFMIS. An extract from IFMIS.
Order, honorable senators. May the senator be heard in silence.
An alleged extract from IFMIS that is not verified. Mr. Speaker, this house has passed a law called the Computer Misuse and Cybercrime Act 2018. And I participated in processing this bill. Under section 14, subsection 2, it is very clear that any data from a computer system, especially a computer system that is categorized under section 9 of the same act as a critical information infrastructure, that access must be based on a consent. Mr. Speaker, we have been presented with an extract from IFMIS which has no consent. Yes, they made an attempt to get a consent, but there are other offices which could have provided the consent, like the Controller of Budget Office, the Treasury, and even the IFMIS Directorate itself. They never made that effort. Mr. Speaker, this particular extract was provided by an anonymous person called Salasio. This man has not been brought to this house to testify. This man is not known whether this money exists or not. The house cannot, a house of parliament is a house of record. We cannot be made to sit here for hours listening to submission based on a document that is not verified, a document that is unlawful. Mr. Speaker, this house has to be respected. In addition to that, Mr. Speaker, there were some submissions given as evidence of what's up. And this matter was questioned by Senator Gloria. And the council on the other side brushed over the issue. But if you go to another law that was passed by this house called the Data Protection Act, Section 26 of that act talks about the data subject rights.
Senator Mutinda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And